Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about Northern Native American music, and I'm just going to preface by saying this whole presentation, I think Northern is kind of a broad term. Mainly I'm going to be looking at Inuit culture, so as you can see, 6 musical style areas exist in North America. However, we can narrow that down to just like one specifically in like Canada and the Arctic. And those regions are Northwest Coast and the Arctic. In this map in particular, there's so many tribes, it's kind of like broad and it's hard to like pinpoint every tribe's like different distinct like qualities, which is why I kind of chose to look predominantly at Inuit culture because it expands like up into the Arctic, towards Greenland, and like across Canada. So yes, they would be kind of classified in like Arctic music. So you can go to the next slide. That's just like a map of like, that doesn't have Greenland on it, I don't think. I should know, it doesn't. But that one shows like the whole like northern region as a whole, so. You can go to the next slide. So Inuit music in Greenland. Inuit people arrived in Greenland starting at 2000 BC, and it continues all the way through to the 19th century. However, it's hard to trace some Inuit ideas from the songs of that area just because it was Europeanized like very early on. So in studies, it was a lot of music that they have today is of European origin, but most Greenlanders are of Inuit and European origin. So in the east and the north, there are a couple isolated populations from ice that surrounded them. So a few traditional songs have survived. And in the next slide, going more in depth, they had song contests which were basically a man or 2 men or 2 women going against each other in public where they basically just ridiculed each other through song, and it was basically for entertainment purposes. So it's really, you can probably imagine what it's like. I think it's common in multiple cultures actually. So they could use traditional songs for those, or they could use their own composed pieces, and the way that worked was you could compose a piece and it was yours to perform until you died, and then people could then start performing that piece afterwards. It would still be associated with you, but that's how kind of music got passed down from like different generations. Like for some of it, it's like it can't be pinned specifically to like a specific person, but that's kind of how things got like passed on. Women would also sing lullabies and charm rituals that were normally composed of like 2 tones. Those specifically weren't very musically complex because that's just how they were, but other things were more like for entertainment, and like in the north it was particularly more fast-paced, and they had some like comedic scenes and stuff that they would do. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting something. I don't think I am. I think it's okay. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Oh, there it is. Okay. So in a majority of Inuit culture, it's primarily focused on vocals. They do have some percussive instruments, like the bull roar and rattles. The bull roar is the one in the middle, and it's made of primarily like various membranes from the abdominal cavity of sea mammals and polar bears. And the mirrolite, I did not know what that vegetable was. I'm going to be honest, which is why I included a picture. And I'm sorry if some of you know what that is, and I'm just stupid. But in case some of you don't know, it's a member of the gourd family, and it was used in East Greenland until World War II. So it's just an example of different like resources being used for musical purposes. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so throat singing in Inuit culture is performed by women in two pairs singing face to face. They use vocal manipulation and breathing techniques to kind of use like rhythmic syncopation. There's a couple videos. It can reach up to 240 beats per minute or more, so it's really fast, you'll hear it. It can be composed of comprehensible lyrics, so lyrics that we can understand or are understood. Vocables, which are words that don't really have any meaning, they're kind of just sounds, and then and just general like sounds that are meant to imitate nature, and then words that over time have lost their meaning but used to have connotations associated with them. Yes.
It's time to take action. Start by talking.
My name is Karen Cutler, and I'm an Inuit throat singer and drum dancer.
My name is Kathy Cutler, and I'm an Inuit throat singer and drum dancer.
We are in Anchorage, Alaska. We are here to perform at the Circuit Court.
Okay, and yeah, the second one. Oh, also, you can pause it really quick. Or not. There's just weird captions there. I don't know why they did that, but. Okay, and then this last section, I'm just going to talk a little bit about modern. This isn't particularly in like Northern Native American music. It's kind of just like North American, Native American culture as a whole. It kind of is intertwined with Western music a little bit. After World War II, Native veterans were more exposed to Western pop music, and a lot of bands started to emerge in the 30s. However, there was a lot of widespread industry discrimination involving like studio time that limited the audience for Native popular music to local venues and traditional Native ceremonies. However, you can see like Robbie Robertson, Rita Coolidge, Redbone, Cher, they have like Native roots, and they started to rise to prominence in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. The 80s and the 90s also allowed for particular rapid growth because, especially with distribution of Native American pop music into the mainstream with records like Sounds of America Records, which gave Native Americans greater access to recording equipment, which they didn't previously have a lot of access to. And that's it.